Stephen King and the makers of From team up for a new MGM banger called The Institute, based off the 2019 Stephen King novel. And I'm going to keep it a beanbag with you. Judging by the trailer, the symbolism is thicker than the glass at SeaWorld. In this video, we're going to talk about that, some of the esoteric symbolism, and what to expect from the Institute. I'm also going to reveal some connections that tie directly to a hidden message that I've revealed during my coverage of From. But before I do that, shout out to all of you for taking the time to watch my video. And if you're new to Real Enigmas and Theories, welcome. This video will go over the official trailer for the upcoming show The Institute and contain a few minor spoilers for the TV show From. Let's cook. For decades, Stephen King has touched on the unsettling truths of the real-life government experiments, shining light on how the government have experimented on its own people. The Institute is about children being abducted and held in a secret facility and weaponized for psychic warfare. This type of vibe channels the very real MK Ultra and Project Artichoke programs. These were covert operations that dosed unwitting subjects with LSD and other substances to test mind control and parapsychology under the guise of national security. And look, I know that it gives that real Stranger Things vibes, but Stranger Things was actually inspired by the Stephen King classic Firestarter, that good old small town horror fused with Cold War propaganda blueprint. And even though Stranger Things has popularized these themes for a new generation, King's legacy as the OG of psychic children in captivity remains undeniable. Now, with The Institute adapted for television by the creators of From, we can expect another dope installment that stands perfectly at the stove of King's legacy and today's appetite for dark, mind-bending thrillers. Also standing at that stove is Jack Bender, and I know that just from the trailer that he's cooked up, we're standing in line for some esoteric nourishment for the fans who were captivated by shows like Lost and From. And I've already spotted something major from the trailer. Stay tuned. So we started this trailer off with a few blast shots of what to expect and someone saying there are things going on that you would not believe, and it's not clear on who's speaking. We see some sort of building that looks like a factory in the middle of the woods, but I'm guessing that it's the facility. We also see the main character Luke in a glass tank in a spinning chair as well. And these most likely are the experiments being run. We also get some shots of other characters, and we get one familiar face in the mix. It's Victor's father, Henry, who plays in From, and that's being played by Robert Joy. So Robert Joy's in From and he's in the Institute. I wonder if we'll see more characters from in the Institute. And it seems like this character is being viewed from the perspective of someone who's being experimented on. I mean, like you see the multiple faces, like someone's coming back or leaving consciousness, you know? Maybe he's the doctor that's actually carrying out these experiments. Now, there are a few more characters here we can talk about, but we'll wait for the season to start to analyze and go deeper on that. And that string of images ends with the glass tank shattering, which could be the result of somebody's powers. Now, the rest of the trailer pretty much breaks down the entire premise of the show. One moment, he's sitting at dinner with his parents, and the next minute, he's being drugged in his bed, and he wakes up in a replica of his bedroom. He connects with another recruit, and it sounds like she's giving him the unofficial orientation, but he is also briefed by the director, Miss Sigsby, played by Mary Louise Parker. The trailer does a great job of establishing these characters' motives by giving us her speech to Luke about the work that they're doing being important. She's trying to convince him that what they're doing is for the greater good, and that's never a good sign. The conversation he has with his fellow abductee and Mrs. Sigsby are intertwined to answer some of the questions that the audience may have going into this. I thought that was a dope way to edit it, and I hope they do some of that in the actual show. We get some real dope shots of what's to come for the series, a display of telekinetic abilities, and we get to see the character who made the statement about the facility and what's going on there. She was giving me the 12 Monkeys vibe. The building gets lifted in the air by someone or something, most likely Luke. And at the end of the trailer, they tell us what the premiere date is, which is July 13th, 2025. Now, that date is pretty important, and we're going to talk about that later, but the screen also lets us a little bit of symbolism as well. In fact, this entire trailer gives us a glimpse into the symbolism embedded into the show. First of all, this shot itself shows us the waffle pattern, and we've been seeing that in a lot of shows, including Severance. Checkered patterns and quadral tessellations all over the place, and I've been talking about how they've been scattered throughout most of media for the last 5 years. You have this gate shot, the waffle patterned ceiling, her checkered pants here, the chessboard on the wall, and the actual chessboard on the table. We get the striped prison symbolism with the same character that's actually asking about busting loose. But this shot of the glass tank not only makes me think of the Order of the Trapezoid, but the date is totally connected to something I've revealed about the show From. And being that Jack Bender is involved with both of these joints, it definitely piques my attention. Let's start with something that this girl says about some of these so-called experiments. She said that they feel like a nail being driven into your forehead. And this stood out to me because this literally happens to a character in From. A girl named Kelly, played by the actress Phoebe Rex, was pinned to a tree with a piece of rebar through her forehead. And for her to say this in this show, and it also being directed by Jack Bender, is crazy. Now, the symbolism behind this is the biblical story of Deborah, Barak, Jael, and Sisera. Okay, let me give a quick breakdown real quick and how it all ties into the date. In the book of Judges, chapter 4 and 5, Israel is oppressed by King Jabin of Canaan, and his general Sisera commands 900 iron chariots to terrorize Israel. Deborah, who is a prophetess and judge, inspires Barak to fight Sisera's forces. Israel defeats Sisera's army, and Sisera flees on foot to seek refuge in a tent of Jael, the wife of Heber. Jael offers him hospitality, milk, a blanket, and he falls asleep. And when he falls asleep, Jael takes the tent peg and drives it right through his head and nails him to the ground. Needless to say, dude was instantly marked out. So let's keep it a beanbag. That symbolism popping up in both shows is definitely by design. And the purpose is to display the actual symbolism, but it gets deeper because this esoteric pathway leads us right to political theater in our actual real lives. The metascript. Last year, I revealed a connection in From to the Trump assassination attempt that happened last summer. And I know it sounds a little bit out there, but check this out. In From, we had a couple called the Matthews, and they had 2 children and one child that had passed away, and his name was Thomas. So that would make him Thomas Matthew. And the Trump shooter, his name was literally Thomas Matthews Crook. Then we have the Jade character who comes into town in an Audi and brings up Venn diagrams several times. Now that character's name was Jade Herrera. Keep that in mind. Now, Kamala Harris repeatedly stated that she loves Venn diagrams many times on camera. I mean, you could just go look up a YouTube video and you'll see that she said it a bunch of times. Venn diagrams. I love Venn diagrams. Now, the name Jade Herrera is actually a 4 and a 7, Jade and Herrera. And the main character of the show's name is Boyd Stevens, which is also 4 and 7. The numbers 4 and 7 pop up everywhere on this show. Now, the main character, Boyd Stevens, also has an attempt taken on his life where he's shot and then the shooter is deleted. Boyd also makes a speech in season 3 that's almost identical to the speech that Trump was making at his shooting. You can go look up my previous videos to get the actual details on the speeches. So back to the 47. A priest brings up the 47th book of the Catholic Bible. A woman says that she has 4 children and 7 grandchildren. It shows up on a clock. It's encoded in hospital room numbers. And Donald Trump became the 47th president. Now, at the time of me recording this is a 7 and a 4, which is July 4th. Now, Donald Trump did become the 47th president, and his shooting actually happened on July 13th, which is the 7th month, and the 1 and 3 and 13 equal 4. So there's another 7 and a 4. But this is the crazy part. This show actually premieres on the 1-year anniversary of the Trump shooting, July 13th. And that's the same day Donald Trump got sniped in his right ear, red beam with the scope. This is where it gets even crazier. The abductees in the Institute all have to get a tracking device on their right ear, and that tracking device has a red dot on it. Now, I know y'all gonna be saying I'm reaching and all of that, but the tracking device on the ear was not a detail in the novel, and it's totally a decision that was made for the adaptation. I mean, just the red dots on the ear and the release date being July 13th is very interesting to say the least. I don't think that it's random at all that they picked July 13th to roll out this show. That date is basically a ritual marker. Last year, it was the date of the Trump shooting. This year, it's the date the Institute shows us red dots on kids' ears and experiments hitting behind a government fence. Now, whether or not you see that as predictive programming or a cosmic coincidence, the pattern is still sitting right there clear as day. These encoded messages are dope, whether it's done on purpose or the realm that we live in shows us these patterns through various forms of artistic expression on the world stage. I mean, this show is about scooping up kids with telekinetic powers and weaponizing them. So the least that they could do is drop some shining level esoteric vibes in the mix. I know the release dates mixed with the subject matter had me instantly locked in. July the 7th month, 7 days of the week, 7 virtues, 7 chakras, 7 notes on the piano, the 7 main colors, 7 seals. We got 7 metals corresponding to 7 different heavenly bodies. We have the 7 layers of skin. Shit, you got 7 Dragon Balls. How about building number 7, which also fell on 9/11? And speaking of 9/11, check out this Trump hat. 4547 also equals 9 and 11. And John Griffin said many times that 9/11 was the inspiration for this show. So for that to be coded in there, it's crazy. Now, when I tell you that these shows and these studios are releasing media timed to occult dates, celestial alignments, and numerological sequences, I'm dead ass serious, but I'm not mad at them one bit. What we're doing is we're bearing witness to an ancient practice, the science of mass persuasion in the season of Cancer, which is the 4th zodiac sign. But in the esoteric world, it's way deeper than just horoscope vibes. It's actually called the gateway of man. This is where symbolically souls come to this world. And Cancer is depicted in the Masonic Royal Arch in the keystone spot. And that kind of takes us back to the order of the trapezoid, but we'll get to that too. Cancer anchors the foundation of that arch, which is the womb of manifestation. So it's never really about architecture. It's really about who controls the gateway. And the symbolism being used in this way is being used to tell you who is giving you this message. I hope you just picked up what I put down. Now, Cancer is the first of the 3 water signs, and water is the hidden current of the subconscious, and Cancer being the womb of which the soul enters the realm, that water would be the amniotic fluid. So when we're watching this trailer and we see somebody levitating this water with their mind, that's not just a flex of telekinesis. It's symbolic of him mastering the emotional realm. Now, I remember from using this same imagery with the character named Sarah under a broken archway, as you can see right here. And when she was under that archway, she was receiving a message from voices in her head. And previously, those voices had told her to harm a child. And look, what do we have here? The Institute is literally about taking the youngest, most vulnerable and transforming him into a weapon that the system can use. Now, let's keep it a beanbag. I know what you're thinking. I know you're like, yo, this is way too deep for a trailer reel. But hey, this is Stephen King and Jack Bender we're talking about, 2 masters of symbolism. And that symbolism is the hidden hand's way of speaking to those who can actually see. It's the ultimate form of public relations. And that takes us right into Edward Bernays, the father of public relations, the man whose fingerprints are all over the way media manufactures not just entertainment, but consciousness itself. For those who don't know, Bernays was the nephew of Sigmund Freud, and he took Freud's ideas about unconsciousness mind and turned them into the foundation for modern public relations. Freud studied how repressed desire shaped the individual's behavior, but nephew took it and weaponized that insight to shape the behavior of entire populations. He understood that you don't persuade people through logic. You gotta move the crowd through symbols, emotion, and spectacle. I remember sitting in my college marketing class asking myself, why were we about to learn about Sigmund Freud? I mean, the instructor walks in, she was like, today class, we're gonna learn about Sigmund Freud. And I thought she said Siegfried and Roy. And then she went into the teachings of his nephew, Edward Bernays, and it all made sense. In the early 20th century, he showed the corporations and government that you could embed messages inside of cultural products, movies, celebrity stories, and news headlines. And you could make the audience internalize this without even realizing it. He famously called this process engineering consent, which is really just a polite way of saying mass psychological manipulation. And this is not me reaching, this is not no conspiracy theory. This was his literal business model, and they teach this in college marketing classes. He worked directly with Hollywood studios to help movies feel more desirable. He elevated film premieres into symbolic rituals that were just as much about conditioning behavior as it was selling tickets. Now check this out. Hollywood was the perfect delivery system for what he called the invisible government. Pretty much a network of influencers and strategists who could guide public opinion by shaping the symbolic environment people lived in. Whether it was promoting cigarettes as a symbol of female liberation or using radio dramas to sell products, the formula was always locked into the same mixture. Connect an ideal to a powerful emotional symbol, then flood the culture with it until it feels like common sense. And when you look at shows like The Institute, Stranger Things, or even From, you're seeing that same principle play out. It's not just telling stories. It's actually a spiritual container for some type of cultural programming. And that's why it's called TV programming. Magical channeling on your favorite channel, trapped in the net of the TV network. Spell casting into the broadcast and casting characters through casting spells. And it's all stirred into the trauma, nostalgia, the occult motifs, the real life parallels to create this atmosphere that feels too uncanny to be a coincidence. And that's the genius of Bernays. He proved that the most effective propaganda doesn't feel like propaganda. It just feels like entertainment. Think about it. You've got psychic children in captivity, surveillance, ritual symbolism, and carefully timed release dates that echo historical events. Whether it's predictive programming or deliberate coordination, the effect on the subconscious mind is still the same. The imagery imprints itself on the collective psyche, preparing us to accept certain ideals that once felt crazy or unthinkable. Bernays understood this perfectly. He believed that if you can control stories that the people consume, you can control the reality that they actually would accept. And he was right. And Hollywood knew he was right. That's why they worked with him. He also knew that celebrities were the way to do it. Let's break this down for a minute. Y'all came to Real Enigmas and Theories. Y'all know how I do it. Let's break down the word celebrity real quick. The word celebrity itself is an incantation if you understand what you're hearing. It comes from the Latin word celebritas, which literally means a rite, a ceremony, a condition of being celebrated. This word magic is a public ritual that anoints them with collective energy. This is why some people feel like a celebrity's life is larger than life. Now, that's not me reaching. That's actually the etymology of the word. And they knew what they were doing when they picked that word to be the word. Let me explain. The term celebrity was made popular by Fraser's magazines, founded in 1830. They were the ones who first figured out that you could take a regular person, a novelist, a politician, and elevate them almost to this mythic status just by controlling the narrative around them. And this was the first time that the public actually got addicted to the idea of following someone else's life like an unfolding drama. Many of the literal figures and editors behind these magazines were deeply influenced by Freemasonry, Rosicrucianism, and Hermetic societies that believed in hidden hierarchies of knowledge. They used the language of initiation, illumination, and secrecy to elevate certain public figures to this quasi-religious status. A famous person wasn't just somebody who was successful, they were actually chosen by the media of that time to be elevated. And me working in the music business and being around for as long as I have been, I see this happening all the time. Then later in the 20th century, you had Aleister Crowley stepping on the scene. And he understood that if you wrap your message in enough taboo, spectacle, and symbolism, you could capture the public's imagination and keep it there. Crowley's philosophy of Thelema, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, was less about chaos and more about mass initiation, and many Hollywood people became highly influenced by his teachings and philosophy. And then fast forward, right behind Crowley came Edward Bernays, who took that same playbook and said, cool, let's scale this joint up. Bernays took all the knowledge about the symbols, subconscious triggers, emotional hooks, and his uncle teachings and turned it into modern public relations. It's crazy. This is the dude who figured out that you could sell anything, politics, cigarettes, alcohol, movies. All you had to do was wrap it up in the right imagery and the repetition, just keep shoving it in their face. And boom, you got him. He taught Hollywood how to turn film premieres into mass ceremonies. And also these award ceremonies are laden with symbolism. And that's thanks to Bernays as well. The premiere isn't just about releasing a product. It was about embedding an idea into your psyche so deep that you felt like it was your own thought on some Inception type shit. So when you see the Institute dropping on July 13th, the anniversary of a major political ritual, and you catch all of those checkerboard floors, red ear markers, a telekinetic water floating around, you're watching a ritual in motion disguised as a Stephen King adaptation, and I'm definitely here for it. So let's get ready for the Institute coming July 13th. I'm glad MGM is dropping something like this while we wait for the return of From. And as far as the novel is dope, and I can't wait to see how they adapted it for TV. We could talk more about some of the symbolism like the logo of the Institute's organization and the Vesica Pisces nodes that it gives, but we'll talk about that later. I just thought it was very reminiscent of Lumen from Severance, and it's on par with that one eye symbolism. But when the season starts, we're going to dive into that as well. So there you have it. Some symbolism, a bit of history, and some inner show connections. This trailer is pretty intriguing. Stephen King heat for the summer that takes us right on into September. Oh, look, Sept also means 7. So if you like this video, go ahead and do all that dope YouTube stuff by tapping that screen for me a few times. And if you're not subbed to Real Enigmas and Theories, hopefully this will be the video to make you do it. That's all for my video this evening. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.